Hi everybody, I'm Robert, and I would like to show you how to program your Eggtimer TRS transmitter using a Mac computer. The user manual that comes from Eggtimer is good actually, and it's got the instructions for how you do the programming once you're connected to it. But it doesn't really tell you how to connect to it from a Mac. It's really more the instructions are more for the PC. And connecting from a Mac is just tricky enough that I thought I'd make a quick video to walk you through that process. So let me walk you through the hardware that you need. I'll talk to the software that I'm using, and then we'll connect and do a little programming. So let's get started. So first of all, I've got the Eggtimer TRS board, of course. This particular one, I have a little bit of tape over the speaker because otherwise it's really loud. I am not plugged into anything, and I don't have an antenna yet. So I'm going to put a little RPSMA surface mount board on here so I can connect an antenna. But you don't need an antenna for this part of the process. I have a battery pack that I'll be using to connect to that. I have a USB to serial TTL connector, and that side of things is just three little wires. There's a green, white, and black with little connecting pins on the end that correspond to transmit, receive, and ground. I have these taped together with a little label I made just to make it easier to connect to the board. So you'll see how that works in just a moment. And last but not least, because I have a newer Mac that does not actually have a port for this that I can plug into, I have one of these guys, a USB-B to USB-C connector. So that's the hardware. That's all that I really need to program, all that you need to program. And let's get the transmitter board connected up, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing for software. So first of all, I take my dongle and connect that up, and then that lets me plug it into the side of my Mac, like so. So I'm plugged in there. On the transmitter board, we've got the 3 pins for the serial interface. I'm going to take these and connect them like so. So transmit, ground, and receive, as indicated on the board, go here. These labels, by the way, are what it says on the board. They're not the actual labels for the connectors on the end of the serial cable. So read the Eggtimer manual on this. It'll tell you how to connect that up. All right, I'm still not plugged into power. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and run through the software side of things. First, I have my Mac, and I'll just show you briefly what that looks like. This is a MacBook Pro. Obviously, you should be able to do this with any Mac. I'm running macOS Monterey version 12.5.1. I don't think the specific version matters all that much. You just need to, get the latest release or something reasonably current. What really matters here is that you have the terminal app, which pretty much all versions of macOS have. And inside the terminal app, you should be able to run the screen utility, which I believe Mac ships with. So you don't need to install anything. And that's important because if you look at the instructions for how to do this, and what people have done in the past historically, there's a lot of talk about downloading and installing the prolific 2303 serial chipset driver, or the FDMI, I forget what it is. There's a lot of talk about drivers and serial cable versions and stuff. You don't need any of that crap. Just get yourself the USB to serial TTL cable, plug it in, and then jump right into the terminal app. And the terminal app is available on your Mac. You just type terminal from the spotlight, and you can hit, and it should come up. Or it's available in the applications utilities folder, and you can find it there. So that's what I actually have running here. I've had it running. And this is it's a bash shell for those of you who are familiar with Linux. And the first thing I want to do is actually make sure my Mac recognizes the serial cable that I'm using. And I do that by typing ls/dev *serial*. And if I hit return, what I'll see is two different interfaces listed. A cu.usb serial -210 or some number, and also a tty.usb serial -210. That numeric suffix will change. It'll probably be different for you, but what you care about is the USB serial part, and specifically you want this TTY version. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy that because that's what I want to connect to. And to do that connection, I'm going to use the screen utility. And I do that by typing screen. I give it the path to my device, and then I give it the baud rate, which is 9600 for the Eggtimer. And then I hit return. And that causes the screen to go blank, and my terminal, my screen session is now started, and anything I type will go to the serial cable and whatever's on the end of it. And any data that comes back over that should show up here. And that's all that's required. You don't need to download anything, no prolific drivers, none of that stuff. So having done that, I'm going to actually turn this guy on. I'm going to plug him in, and we'll see what that looks like when it spins up, because that can be a little confusing as well. So power on, and we see, I should see a little red light flashing there, and it's beeping, waiting to connect to a one of the base stations, which I don't have turned on because you don't need it for this. So it's going to beep for, I think it's about 45 seconds, and then we should see the flight screen come up. So I'm going to go away for a second. We'll come back when that appears. Hey, there we go. All right, so what we saw when this came on, when this board came online, was a pause. The beeping paused. The screen came up, and then now it's chirping rather quickly. The fast beeping means that it's waiting to see if there's anybody interacting with it in the serial cable. So I'm going to do that by hitting the return key or the enter key. There we go. So as soon as I've done that, we see the transmitter board stops beeping and the screen refreshes. So if I hit enter again, you'll see the screen refresh. Yeah, so that tells us that we're now communicating with the board, and then we're in programming mode. So that's how that works. That's what it looks like. At this point, there's not a whole lot going on here. No lights, no beeps. I'm going to set this aside. All right, so that's really the main thing about connecting. There is one before I show you how the programming works. I want to quickly mention that if you want to disconnect, if you want to get out of the screen app, don't hit Control-C, don't close the terminal app, don't run the kill command, because you will probably leave the serial port in an unusable state. You'll have to reboot your laptop to recover, which is a bit annoying. Instead, the way you exit out of the screen app is you go to the keyboard and you hit Control-A, Control-K, and you'll see down here at the bottom of the screen, it asks, really kill this window? To which you can say yes. Hit Y, and that will exit out of this. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you how to program this. But yeah, that's one of the more important things, is knowing how to properly exit out of the screen app so you don't lock up the serial port. If you do get locked up, what you'll probably see is the screen app will give you an error that says, I think it's sorry, can't find PTY. It's rather cryptic, but if you see that error, don't be too surprised. You may have to reboot your system. I have yet to find a simpler way of resetting the serial port. All right, so we've covered the hardware, we've covered the software, we've connected. Let me just quickly walk you through what programming looks like, and then I think we can call it good. So on this screen, one thing that it's worth noting is that pay attention to where this little block cursor is here. That gives you an indication of what you can and can't type and what you're controlling. So right now, it's telling me I can hit A or B to go to the drogue or main sections. And it kind of says that I can hit F to make the frequency change, but you actually have to hit Control F for that, which is a little weird. So, but here, let's just show you what that looks like. So I'm gonna hit A. That moves my cursor up here. And I can now hit plus or minus to change that setting. So let's go, I'll just go ahead and turn that on to, I'll put it in normal mode, and I'm gonna hit return. You can also hit B to do the same thing for the main. Let's say I turn the main off, just for giggles. Hit return. I think you have to save at this point if you want those settings to take hold before going on to change the frequency and ID code. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change the frequency code because that'll round this out. Okay, so like I said, hitting F just refreshes the page, contrary to what you may think by that frequency part. But if you hit Control F and then you wait for a second, because I don't know why, it takes a little bit for that to refresh, you are on the frequency change page, where I can basically do the same thing with the frequency, the ID code, and the device name. So I hit A to go to the frequency, minus, plus to change the frequency, hit return, B if I want to change the ID code, again, that same thing, or C to change my name, but I'm going to keep it the same because I like that name. I hit return. My cursor's down here telling me I can hit those keys. And so just to show you what this looks like when you save, here you go. All right, so I'm going to show you what the board does when you hit save. So ready? I'm about to hit the escape key. There we go. I get a green light, and then it starts chirping. And on my screen here, it actually tells me programming OK. At this point, my programming session, I believe, is over. Like, I haven't found anything I can do. There's no keys I can hit that will get me back to where I can make any changes. So if I want to restart, I have to power cycle this the transmitter board. I don't have to unplug the cable. I don't have to start the screen session and quit out of that, but I do have to power cycle. Which I'm not going to do because I think you don't need to see that. So I'm going to unplug this. So we're unplugged. And I'm going to hit Control A, Control K, and I'm going to kill the window. And so I'm done. Transmitter board programmed. All right, I hope this is helpful for somebody. Sure would have saved me a fair bit of time. Part of the reason I'm doing this is so that I don't forget all these little steps. So good luck. Hopefully I'll see you at a launch.